The nominees for Geoff Keighley's Game Awards have finally been announced, and I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and try to predict who the winners would be and go ahead and do the voting for myself. But it wouldn't be no fun if my predictions didn't have stakes. So what I've decided to do is on the night of December 12th when the Game Awards happens, I am going to have a row of sodas next to me that I'm going to take a sip out of every time I'm wrong. What's special about these sodas, you ask? Well, I have two examples behind me here. For one, if I get a prediction wrong, I will have to drink one of these sodas and escalate as I keep getting them wrong throughout the night. They can be as simple as something like a pumpkin pie flavor. It might not be too bad. I mean, pumpkin pie, right? It's sweet. To anything as radical or bad as buffalo wing soda. I'm looking forward to that one. Let's hope we never have to reach that. So I will be doing that throughout the night as the show goes on over on my Twitter and Blue Sky. Links will be down below. And so if you want to see me suffer through all of that pain and suffering, go ahead and follow me down there as I'll be live tweeting it as it happens. But for now, let's go ahead and get into the website so we can do our predictions, and I'll explain what I think and why I predicted the games to win that it did. I'm Ashton Lovell, and let's have a conversation about the Game Awards winners. All right, so here on the main website, you can go ahead and click Vote Now, and that'll take you to a page where you can view all the nominees, or you can just start voting straight up. We're going to view all the nominees and start at the bottom here. We're going to skip these four categories here: Best Esports Team, Best Esports Athlete, Best Esports Game, and Content Creator of the Year. I simply just don't know enough about them and quite frankly don't really care, so I'm going to skip them. I'm not going to waste my time. Instead, we're going to start with the most anticipated game. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'll read off the nominees. I will be voting for who I want to win, but I will be putting a little ping where I'll write predicted over the top as I predict which game I think will win, and that's what's going to be based on which sodas I drink, is my prediction to win, not what I vote for, right? Those are two separate things. So starting with most anticipated game, recognizing an announced game that has demonstrably illustrated potential to push the gaming medium forward. Man, pretty big shoes to fill there, Geoff. So we've got Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Monster Hunter Wilds. Now for me, I personally, out of these 5 games, you said I could only play one. I think, honestly, it's a tough vote for me between Metroid Prime 4 and Death Stranding 2. Ghost of Tsushima I liked, but I didn't really love it like everybody else did. I know that's kind of a hot take, but I thought it was just kind of okay. Monster Hunter Wilds, I do really like Monster Hunter, but I've only really played Worlds, and I still got some catching up to do, so not chopping at the bit for that. Grand Theft Auto 6, I'm just not a big GTA guy. I'm sorry. I get that it's good, just not a big GTA guy. So Metroid Prime I'm more interested in, and Death Stranding 2. I think I would probably vote Metroid Prime 4, if for no other reason than because I just gotta know what that game looks like when it comes out. Like, it's been in development for so long and been, like, had so much hype behind it. I gotta know how Metroid Prime 4 looks like. So I'm gonna cast my vote for it. However, my prediction will be for Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, come on. Let's not waste any time. It's Grand Theft Auto 6. All right, now if we go ahead and hit previous, we can go backwards. Best Adaptation, recognizing outstanding creative work that faithfully and authentically adapts a video game to another entertainment medium. So we have Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon Yakuza, and Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft. I think for me, the vote and the prediction are going to be the exact same. I'm going to be voting and predicting Fallout. I think Fallout was great. I love that show. That show was really, really great. I think it did a really good job of telling a story within the Fallout world and showing the Fallout world to an audience without trying to be pigeonholed to the games themselves. The whole point of Fallout is that it's a huge world that you can do whatever you want in. There's so much lore to explore and so many stories you can write within it that you don't have to mess with what's in the games already. And they did that in the Fallout show, while still giving us some Easter eggs and stuff for us diehard Fallout fans, and it was just a good show. I mean, it was just well written. Now, I know Arcane is also really good, but from what I understand, it's kind of in this weird spot where it's not fully done yet, so it's already getting votes here, but it's like not finished. I don't think Arcane's going to win just by the fact that like it is not finished, and I think people were really blown away by Fallout. Arcane had its moment in the sun last year, the year before, whenever it was nominated. I think it'll be Fallout this time. My prediction and vote go to Fallout. Best multiplayer for outstanding online multiplayer gameplay and design, including co-op and massively multiplayer online experiences, irrespective of game genre or platform. We've got Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. This one's a tough one. I'm not super a multiplayer guy, but there was one game on this list that had a real moment and really blew everyone away and was kind of like a surprise hit this year that I think is going to stick with people because people are still playing it, and it had such a strong social media presence. My vote and prediction both are going to Helldivers 2. Best sports racing for the best traditional and non-traditional sports and racing game. That might be the shortest description out of any of these categories. I don't know, man. I guess I'll vote like NBA 2K25 because I like watching the NBA, but I don't really play the 2K games. And I'll predict, I don't know, EA Sports FC 25. That's what I'll predict. I don't really know. That's just what I'm going to put down. People like soccer. So that's my prediction. NBA 2K25 is my vote. Best sim/strategy. Best game focused on real-time or turn-based simulation, strategy gameplay, irrespective of platform. We got Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. So I have not played any of these games. However, I have heard a lot about all of them. I think this one's really tough because it's such a niche category as well. It's one that I actually do like. I do like strategy. I do like simulation games. I just haven't gotten around to these this year. And this might be kind of a underdog pick. I think Unicorn Overlord really is close here. I really want to pick it. And this might just be my own bias from like people I've talked to and people that I know who have played this game. But I think Kunitsugami actually did more than people anticipate, and people liked it a lot. I think it had more of a conversation around it than you expect. And it's Capcom, and like Capcom has some reach now, like especially with how good they've been recently with all the Monster Hunters, the Street Fighters, the Resident Evils. Like they have reach now, and I think Kunitsugami is going to be my vote and my prediction here. Best family for the best game appropriate for family play, irrespective of genre or platform. We've got Astrobot, Princess Peach Showtime, Super Mario Party Jamboree, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire. All these are pretty good picks, I would say. Super Mario Party Jamboree is hardly a family game. You will hate your entire family doing that, but that's just me. Princess Peach was a little too simple from what I understand. The rest are pretty good options, but I mean, come on. It's Astrobot. My vote and my prediction is going to go to Astrobot. It's the obvious pick. Best fighting for the best game design primarily around head-to-head combat. We've got Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, Multiverses, and Tekken 8. This one's pretty simple. It's going to be Tekken 8. That's going to be my prediction. I think Tekken 8 is going to blow this one away. However, I do think my vote is going to be Dragon Ball Sparking Zero because Dragon Ball is my shit and it looks freaking dope. So I'm going to pick Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Not the biggest fighting game guy personally. So Dragon Ball kind of speaks to me as like a casual arena fighter type thing for an IP that I love. But Tekken 8 is like probably the best game on this list. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is also really good. But I think just the fact that it's like a remaster collection of stuff kind of hurts it in the sort of voting eyes of like games journalists that take up like what 90% of what determines what wins. So I'm gonna predict Tekken 8, and then I'm gonna vote Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Best RPG. Oh, this is the This is a big one. For the best game design with rich character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. We've got Dragons Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantasio. Man, this is the tough one, right? This is what you pick here could also determine what you pick in some of the other categories later. This one is a big one. Dragon's Dogma 2, I respect a lot, and I cannot wait to play it, especially if the performance can get more ironed out. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, also respect what it does. I will play it one day, but today is not that day. And then it comes down to Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor. It's so tough. I'm not going to get into the whole should Elden Ring be nominated or not. It's here. It is what it is. It's nominated. We have to vote. It's so tough. Rebirth. The thing about Rebirth is it's so well known. It has so much reach. I think Rebirth has the most reach out of all of these games. And what I mean by that is, even though Elden Ring is the more popular game, I would say, and definitely has more players, I think the fact that it is the DLC is enough to hurt some of its vote, even by games journalists. Whereas Final Fantasy VII Rebirth doesn't have that. The problem with Rebirth is that I think there's a contingent out there that didn't really vibe with Rebirth, and there's this weird, I don't know, this weird funk around Rebirth where some people who played Remake just aren't playing Rebirth. They just haven't played it, not because they don't like Remake, but just because they just chosen not to play. I don't understand it, but I loved Rebirth. And Metaphor, my one problem with Metaphor is that it's a Persona SMT style game, and those, while super popular, I think have a limited reach because of the style of game it is. The turn-based, the super long, I understand Shadow of the Erdtree. I mean, all of these games are pretty long, but I think there's a disconnect. I think it doesn't have quite the same level of reach that a Rebirth or an Elden Ring has. There's also the recency bias thing where Rebirth came out so early in the year in February, whereas Metaphor came out just now. It's fresh in people's minds. Have enough people in games media played it to vote for it? Or is there a contingent of people who have had friends play it and they would vote for it based on that? One thing's definitive, my vote is going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's probably, at this point, I have considered it my second favorite game of all time, right behind Kingdom Hearts 2. Take that for what you will. So it's obviously going to be my vote. But will it be my prediction? I think people are underestimating Rebirth this year. I'm going to vote for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm going to predict Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will win Best RPG, but I will not be surprised if it's something else, because this lineup here is incredible. Any of these games could win Best RPG, and I would not be mad. I would not be shocked by it. They all are deserving in their own way. Best Action Adventure for the Best Action Adventure game combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. So we've got Astrobot, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. This one's tough just because Action Adventure, I don't like that they've grouped in platformers with the action adventure genre. I might make a video talking about genres and defining genres in games, and the way that the Game Awards does it, I just don't really vibe with. I think platformer could be its own thing. There's plenty of platformers that come out every year, especially if you include indies into that conversation. So I don't really vibe with that. I know action adventure is very broad, but I won't get into it. At the end of the day, the issue here is that Astrobot's on the list, Otherwise, I feel like it'd be a runaway for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown to win. But because Astrobot's on the list, I'm very compelled to vote for it. Or not vote for it, but pick it, predict it. I'm going to predict Astrobot will win, but I'm voting for Prince of Persia and The Lost Crown. That game is wild. That game looks sick. That game is super cool the way it does its Metroidvania mechanics. I'm voting for Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. Rest in peace, the studio that made it. I really like. Boggles my mind that they were allowed to be shut down the way they were. But my prediction is going to be Astrobot. I think the fact that it's just on the list to be voted for, I think it's going to snatch up some awards. Best action game. For the best game in the action genre focused primarily on combat, we've got Black Myth: Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. I think this one's pretty obvious to me. I think it's going to be Black Myth: Wukong. It's the only one out of this list that's actually nominated for Game of the Year. So I think that makes it a pretty clear winner here. And I'm actually... I don't know. Would I vote for it, though? I'm definitely predicting Black Myth: Wukong will win. But I actually think that I'm going to vote for Helldivers 2. Because I just think it was so cool and inventive that the way that they, played out that game and the way that they did the multiplayer and kept the game alive with the social media. I think it warrants my vote here. I don't feel super strong about any of these other games. So I'm going to vote for Helldivers 2, but I predict Black Myth: Wukong will win it. Best VR AR. For the best game experience playable in virtual or augmented reality, irrespective of platform. Got Arizona Sunshine Remake, Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsingers VR, and Metro Awakening. I'm going to make this one quick because I think that this one is going to be pretty obvious. I think it's going to be Batman Arkham Shadow because Batman is a big popular IP and had a good game. So it will probably win. However, I do think I will vote for Asgard's Wrath because it was such a realization of what big RPG open world type games can be like on VR, which was pretty cool. So I think it really deserved this praise. But I think Batman's just too popular, and the fact that it wasn't an ass game gives it enough to just get it over the edge. Best mobile game. For the best game playable on a mobile device, we've got AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. I don't really play a lot of mobile games, so I don't know a lot about any of these games. I have played Pokemon TCG Pocket. I have like a full power Mewtwo deck with the Gardevoir and all that stuff. But it's so recent, and I think enough people only play it for the card collecting part of it and see it as a pretty big cash grab, pretty toxic monetization model, that I think Balatro, the fact that also, again, it's the only game on this list that is also nominated for Game of the Year, probably going to lock it up, and I will also be voting for it because the fact that this game is so big, so popular, indie game, it plays well, people love it, and it was able to be nominated for Game of the Year over stuff like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and Dragon's Dogma 2 and Call of Duty and Helldivers and all that stuff. I think it deserves to get my vote here as well. So prediction and vote will be Balatro. Best debut indie game. For the best debut game created by an independent studio, we've got Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and The Plucky Squire. All of these great options to pick from. But again, I'm going to stick with my logic that it got nominated for Game of the Year. It had enough enough nominees by game critics for it to be on the Game of the Year list. I think it's going to be Balatro. Balatro is going to win. And my vote? I think I will also vote for Animal Well, though. Because Animal Well, from everything I've seen on it, and it also could just be the people I talk to, praise Animal Well to the moon and back. Absolutely adore this game. So I'm going to give it my vote. I'm going to give it its flowers, but I think Balatro will win. That's my prediction. Animal Well will just be my vote. Best independent game for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher system. We've got Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei, and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. I'll make this one quick. Balatro's going to win this one. Again, I'm going to stick with my prediction, or stick with my sort of philosophy that it got Game of the Year nom, so it's going to win. But I will also vote for Neva. That game looks like something else, man. It's like an art piece just in a video game form. Got the whole dog thing, dog reindeer beast guy that is absolutely going to make you cry. So it's got to get my vote. Beautiful game right there. Best community support, recognizing game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates and patches. Now, that's the important part. Inclusive of social media activity and game updates / patches. That's huge. We've got Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. Final Fantasy 14 did get Dawnbreaker, or Dawnbringer, what I forget what it's called. The new expansion this year, been kind of mixed reception on it though, and that's going to be the big thing that game critics remember. Baldur's Gate 3 has gotten a ton of patches, and it's got mod support now too. And the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 is on the list might be enough for people to vote for it. Fortnite's Fortnite. No Man's Sky has been on this list, I swear, for every year since it came out. But I think my vote and my prediction are going to be Helldivers 2. Just the way that they use social media as like a DM, like a dungeon master, to craft stories and then drive the player base back into the game, drive the player base to do certain things, play certain ways, and everyone buys into it. I just think that was brilliant, and it had never been done before, and they deserve absolute flowers for that, and I think people are going to give them flowers for that this year. Prediction and vote go to Helldivers 2. Best ongoing, award to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time. We've got Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2. Similar conversation with Diablo 4 and Destiny 2. New expansions came out, just like 14. Fortnite's always there. And then Helldivers 2 is on the list. This one's tough for me because I don't really know. The difference between the ongoing game and community support is kind of thin. I understand that it's kind of like ongoing's more for games that are constantly alive, and like Baldur's Gate, for example, isn't going to be an ongoing game. It's going to end its, lifespan at some point, even if players still play it. Like, it's not an online game. But it's tough. But I think my prediction and vote here, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to double up. I'm going to go Helldivers 2 as my vote and my prediction. I have no idea if that's going to come to pass. This one is probably the one I'm least confident in. So vote and prediction go to Helldivers 2, but we'll see how it goes. Games for impact for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kenzera Zal. All great picks, honestly, from what I understand about all of these games. I think my pick is going to be, my prediction is going to be Senua Saga Hellblade 2. I think it's going to get its flowers. It's probably the only thing it's going to get its flowers for. But I think people still hold on to what that game did for like schizophrenia and all of the mental health issues that it tackles in the first game. It just carries over here even harder. And I think people are going to remember that, especially games journalists, and are going to vote for it. My personal pick, this one's tough for me because I don't know enough about Indica or Closer the Distance. So I'm going to vote Neva. But it's really tough. I don't think you can go wrong with your vote here. I really don't. I don't think you can go wrong here. But I'm going to vote Neva here, and Senua Saga will be my prediction. Innovation in accessibility. So this one I'm actually going to skip this one. I don't know enough about how each of these games has innovated in accessibility, and I'm not somebody that typically needs to use options for accessibility, so I don't think I'm the right person to vote for this or to even predict it. So I'm actually going to skip this one. This is going to be the one that I skip. Best performance awarded to an individual for voice over acting, motion, and or performance capture. We've got Brianna White, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell for Life is Strange Level Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez for Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts for Silent Hill 2, and Melina Juergens for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This one is also tough. I don't think it'll be Luke. I don't think it will be Humberly. I don't think it'll be Hannah. I think it's between Brianna White and Melina Juergens. I think. So for me personally, I love Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I do. I think Brianna White does a great Aerith. I'm not so sure Aerith is the best voice acted character in her own game. They're all great. Don't get me wrong. Every character in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is voice acted to perfection. But Aerith didn't exactly have the most dramatic voice acting to do. Like, she's great as Aerith, but the material she was given didn't really suit, this category, I don't think. Melina Juergens doing what she does in the Hellblade games is insane. Like, all of the emotion she has to pull out of herself with the mental health issues she has to convey through her voice and her performance as the character. And then also all the little voices and sounds in her head that she has to emulate as well. Like, I think that's enough to get my vote and to be my prediction. Like, that's next level stuff. And I think she's got to get her flowers for it. Best audio design, recognizing the best in-game audio and sound design. We've got Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. My vote and prediction is going to be... I was going to say Hellblade 2, but then Astrobot... The thing about Astrobot is it does that stuff with the DualSense that is cool, like the tippy taps of the feet and all that stuff, the grain sand, like all that stuff that you get in Astro's Playroom. But is that what people remember? It's tough. It's tough. And like the music too, I think music gets thrown in here. I'm not sure. I think it's its own category. I'm going to go... My vote and prediction is going to be Hellblade 2. Again, it just goes back to like all the voices in your head and how highly produced that game is and what it has to convey to the player. I think we'll get enough for the prediction and for it to get my vote here. I'm not super confident about Hellblade winning. It could easily be Astrobot, but I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to say Hellblade's going to win. We'll have to see how it works out. Best score and music for outstanding music, inclusive of score, original song, and or licensed soundtrack. Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. I think it's between Rebirth and ReFantazio. It's tough, but I honestly, like, as good as Atlas music usually is with like these Persona SMT type games, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the music in ReFantazio. I think the battle music is supposed to be pretty good, but Rebirth is just so iconic. I mean, so iconic. So many bangers in there, even original stuff. Like, God, I'm not even going to spoil the game. I can't spoil the game for you guys. If you haven't played it and you still want to play it, I'm not going to even tell you locations or anything, but there's original scores for different areas that you go to in that game that are just absolutely incredible and are in my, like, half of my video game music playlist is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So it's going to get my vote and my prediction, but I can easily see it being like Metaphor or Astrobot. But we'll have to see. Best art direction for outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. We've got Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva. This one's probably going to be Metaphor. That's like its whole thing, right? Is its style. So I'm going to predict Metaphor is going to get it, even though all of these are deserving in different ways. But Metaphor, that's like the whole, like you look at Metaphor and it oozes style. So I'm going to predict that Metaphor will win this one. But for my vote, I'm actually going to vote for Elden Ring. Because God, dude, like every 5 minutes, it feels like that game you're looking out into a vista that just looks like a painting. Like it's genius what they did with that game in setting up every location in a specific spot so that in so many different instances you walk out and you see the vista and you see things like it's perfectly placed where they exactly want you to look at it, and it's created in such a masterfully artful way. It's incredible. Elden Ring base game was like that, and I think they do it even better here in Shadow of the Erdtree. It's gonna get my vote, but again, I'm predicting Metaphor. Best narrative for outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. This one's tough. I've heard Metaphor's story is pretty good, but it hasn't been the thing that I've heard is blowing people away. Infinite Wealth, I also hear is a good story, but Yakuza's kind of more niche, so it's hard to vote for it. Hellblade 2 is just kind of got a mixed reception when it came out as a game itself, so I think it's hard also to vote for that. Silent Hill 2 could be it, but it is a remake, and unlike Rebirth, which is technically kind of a remake of 7, but not really, if you played it, you know. It does enough different that it's kind of like its own original game, where Silent Hill 2 is just, you'd be voting for Silent Hill 2, which you're voting for a PlayStation 1 game from like 2 decades ago. So I'm actually going to, surprisingly enough, I'm going to vote for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and make it my prediction as well. Kind of feels like I'm making Rebirth run away with things, even though I think it's a lot closer than that's making it out to be. But that's just the way my chips are falling right now. Best Game Direction, awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. We've got Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. This one's tough. This is basically like vote for the game of the year, like almost. We've had plenty of instances where Best Direction did not win game of the year. We've also have instances where they have won the same. So voting for this, and whoever wins this isn't necessarily going to win. It's tough, but I think I'm going to predict and vote for Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. As weird as that sounds, I think that Elden Ring's going to get its flowers here, because again, it's similar to the best art direction that I just voted for. The way that Elden Ring as a game, not just the base game, but the DLC, lays its map out is brilliant. Dark Souls 1 might be the most well-designed in terms of levels and areas game I've ever played. But Elden Ring gives it a run for its money, and it may even surpass it actually, because it's an open world. They were able to achieve an interconnectivity with their open world that's similar to Dark Souls, which is not an open world game. And I just find that so impressive. And again, like everything that's put in Shadow of the Erdtree feels purposeful. It feels like the directions they try to push you in are purposeful. And the way that they just morphed and created that entire world that you explore was so intentional. And I think it deserves the vote and the prediction here. And here we go. The biggest one. Game of the year. Recognizing game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. This is the big boy here. Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I think every single one of these games is going to get at least one award this award show. But which will go home with the ultimate prize? It's really tough. I could see literally any single one of these games winning. The only one I can't see winning is Balatro. And it's not because Balatro is bad or anything. but I just don't think that this little indie game about this little indie rogue game about poker is going to overtake the likes of Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII, Metaphor, or Astrobot. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. Maybe if this was another year like, what was it, 2019, 2020, where there wasn't a lot that came out. It was the COVID years, early in COVID, when stuff got delayed and stuff wasn't coming out. Maybe it had a better chance then. This year, I just don't think it's the time. So that cuts it down to the other ones. I don't think Black Myth's going to win it. If it was a purely fan vote, I think Black Myth would win it. But when you look at the outlets that are voting here, outlets take up 90%. I believe it's around there. It's like 90, 80%, somewhere in there of the vote for the Game Awards. And I think there's only 3 outlets from China that are voting here. I think the Chinese fan base of Black Myth are going to come out in force for it, just like they did with Golden Joysticks, which Black Myth Wukong already won. But from my understanding, that's a purely fan vote type of thing. So that tells me a lot about the support that Black Myth's going to get from fans, because I guess interactions are low with English to Chinese gamers, but I think Black Myth is pretty huge in China, and people underestimate that strength. But because it's not a purely fan vote, I don't think it'll be Black Myth Wukong. So it leaves the other 4. And I literally think any of the 4 could win. I'm going to cross out Shadow of the Erdtree. I think the fact that it is DLC ruffles enough feathers that enough of the outlets won't vote for it purely because of that. Whether you agree with that or not does not matter. I think it's a factor. And I think that's going to push it out. So then it's Astrobot, Rebirth, and Metaphor. The one I'd cut out there is Astrobot. I wouldn't be surprised if Astrobot won, but I think it has the less reach. Even though it's a short game, it's a first-party Sony game, which are always popular. I think the fact that it's a platformer, and it's not a God of War or Last of Us, I don't think it's going to have the same weight as the other games. I think Game of the Years typically are a bit higher of, I don't want to say standard of quality, because Astrobot is like a 9, 10 out of 10 game from what outlets have said. But there's a different weight between putting up an Astrobot as a first-party Sony game and putting up God of War or Last of Us Part 2, right? Like, you can feel that there's a different kind of impact that those games have when they're released. Whether you think that's fair or not, that's irregardless. I think it's true. And I think people aren't going to vote for Astrobot as much because it's just, quote unquote, just a fun, silly little robot game platformer. Even though people love it, I think it doesn't have like that strong story, that narrative element, that emotion. I don't think it does enough groundbreaking in terms of game mechanics for it to stand out enough and to have enough weight to win. But I'm also explaining that a lot just to say, like, I don't necessarily agree that Astrobot should be put down a peg from a God of War, from a Last of Us. I think it should be on equal footing, but I think that's how a lot of media outlets will look at it, so that's why I'm cutting it out. Then it becomes Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Metaphor, the ultimate battle between 2 giant JRPGs, 2 titans in the RPG genre now. Super long games, super narrative. But Final Fantasy VII has the legacy, and it has the reach, it has the popularity. I think more media outlets will remember it, more people in the outlets, because again, remember, it's not just the person who reviews the game, but everyone within an outlet. How many of them will have played Rebirth versus Metaphor? I think Metaphor is just a little too new. If this was a Persona, specifically a Persona, and not a new series, maybe. And I know Rebirth has its problems, especially with the funk I've talked about earlier in this video, and some issues that some people have with the story, which I disagree with. It's some issues people have with the open world, which again, I disagree with. I do think that it has the weight. It just feels like a Game of the Year type game. You know what I mean? It feels like a Game of the Year game. And maybe that's a little bit of like how the Oscars have Oscar bait movies. Maybe Rebirth is a little bit of a Game of the Year bait movie, a Geoff Keighley bait movie. Game, I should say. But I think it's going to win because I think more people know about it. I think more people have played it. And I think it's got the weight and the legacy behind it. And, again, this year became my second favorite game of all time. But it's also going to get my vote. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is my vote. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be your game of the year 2024. So what do you guys think about my predictions for Game of the Year? And what are your predictions for Game of the Year and all of the other categories? Comment them down below and let me know. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it in the comment section below. I'm always willing to engage with you guys about gaming conversations. How many of these nasty flavored sodas do you think I'll be drinking throughout the night? We'll have to find that out. Don't forget, make sure to go ahead and go to my Twitter or my Blue Sky to go follow me and see me do that live. I mean, hey, maybe I'll drink zero. That'd be great if I had to drink zero, but I find that unlikely. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the like button so I know that you liked it. And let's talk again later.